Hey warrior, we live in a world that tells us we need others to validate our dreams, to approve our choices, to hold our hands through every challenge. Society whispers that we're incomplete without constant connection, that solitude is loneliness, that walking alone means we've failed somehow. But what if I told you that the greatest warriors in history, not just on battlefields, but in life itself, discovered their true power only when they learned to stand completely alone? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his private journal, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Here was a man who ruled the Roman Empire, surrounded by thousands, yet he understood that real strength comes from within, from the ability to face yourself without distraction, without someone else's opinion drowning out your inner voice. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life happened when you stopped waiting for permission and started walking your own path. Every moment of genuine growth came when you faced your fears alone, when you chose courage over comfort, when you decided that your vision mattered more than their approval. The Stoic warrior doesn't walk alone because they hate people. They walk alone because they understand that true connection with others can only come after you've learned to connect with yourself. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected. This is about becoming so deeply rooted in your own values, so clear about your purpose, that you can give from a place of abundance rather than need. When you master the art of walking alone, you don't become lonely, you become free. Free from the exhausting game of seeking validation, free from the prison of others' expectations, free to love and serve from your authentic self. The path of the Stoic warrior is not easy, but it's the only path that leads to genuine fulfillment. Today, we're going to explore 7 powerful principles that will transform how you see solitude, how you approach challenges, and how you build unshakable inner strength. If this resonates with you, hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, don't skip any part of this video. Each principle builds on the last, and you'll need all 7 to truly understand the way of the Stoic warrior. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I walk alone, I rise alone, I win alone. Number 1. Embrace the sacred solitude. The first principle of the Stoic warrior is learning to see solitude not as punishment, but as sacred space. Most people fear being alone because they've never learned to enjoy their own company. They fill every quiet moment with noise, scrolling, calling, consuming, anything to avoid the discomfort of facing themselves. But here's what they don't understand. In that discomfort lies your greatest treasure. Seneca, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers. Instead of viewing this forced solitude as suffering, he used it to develop the philosophical insights that would influence humanity for thousands of years. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." His isolation wasn't emptiness. It was the fertile ground where wisdom grew. When you're alone, really alone, something magical happens. The noise of others' opinions fades away. The pressure to perform, to please, to pretend, it all dissolves. What remains is the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are beneath all the masks. This is terrifying for most people because they've built their entire identity around external validation. But for the Stoic warrior, this is liberation. Think about the last time you sat in complete silence with yourself for more than 10 minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. If that sounds unbearable, you're exactly where most people are, afraid of your own mind. But your mind is your most powerful tool, and like any tool, it needs maintenance, attention, and training. Sacred solitude is where you develop your moral compass. When there's no one around to impress, no one to judge, no one to perform for, that's when you discover what you really believe, what you really value, what you're really made of. It's in these quiet moments that you hear the whispers of your deepest wisdom, the guidance that gets drowned out by the chaos of constant connection. The Stoic Warrior schedules sacred solitude like they would schedule training for a marathon. They protect it fiercely because they understand that everything else in their life, their relationships, their work, their impact on the world, flows from the clarity and strength they build in these quiet moments. Start small. 5 minutes of intentional solitude each morning. No agenda, no productivity goals, just sitting with yourself and observing your thoughts without judgment. As you become comfortable with your own company, extend the time. Take solo walks without podcasts or music. Eat meals in silence. Travel alone sometimes. You'll discover that solitude isn't empty, it's full of possibility. It's where ideas are born, where courage is cultivated, where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The Stoic Warrior knows that everyone else is fighting for external territory, but the real battle, the one that determines everything else, happens in the quiet moments when you're completely alone with your soul. Number 2, your opinion of me is none of my business. The second principle that separates the Stoic Warrior from the crowd is this revolutionary mindset. What others think of you is completely outside your control and therefore completely irrelevant to your path. Most people spend their entire lives as prisoners to opinions that don't even belong to them. They make decisions based on what their parents might think, what their friends might say, what strangers on social media might judge. The Stoic Warrior breaks these invisible chains. Eleanor Roosevelt, though not a Stoic philosopher, captured this truth perfectly when she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." But let's take this deeper. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of history's most influential teachers, taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about those events. When someone criticizes you, insults you, or disapproves of your choices, they're not actually hurting you, they're revealing something about themselves. Here's the brutal truth most people can't handle. That person who judges your life choices, they're probably miserable in their own life. The friend who questions your dreams, they've likely given up on their own. The family member who criticizes your path, they're often projecting their own fears and regrets onto you. Their opinion isn't about you at all. It's about them processing their own pain, their own limitations, their own unfulfilled potential. The Stoic Warrior develops what I call opinion immunity. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive of genuine feedback. It means developing the wisdom to distinguish between constructive input from people who genuinely care about your growth and the background noise of those who are simply uncomfortable with your freedom. Think about the last time someone's disapproval really bothered you. Now ask yourself, is this person living the life I want to live? Are they demonstrating the qualities I admire? Are they speaking from love and wisdom or from their own fear and limitation? Most of the time you'll realize that their opinion carries no weight because it comes from a place you don't want to be. The Stoic Warrior also understands that seeking approval is a losing game because it's never enough. You could please 99 people, but that one person's disapproval will still haunt you. You could achieve everything society tells you to achieve, but there will always be someone ready to tear it down. The only opinion that truly matters is the one you have of yourself when you look in the mirror at the end of each day. This principle requires daily practice. Every time you catch yourself about to make a decision based on what others might think, pause, ask yourself, what would I do if no one was watching? What choice aligns with my values, regardless of others' reactions? Then do that. Start small. Wear something you love that others might not understand. Share an idea that matters to you, even if it's unpopular. Take up a hobby that brings you joy, even if it seems weird to others. Each act of living authentically, regardless of others' opinions, builds your freedom muscle. Number 3. The strength found in self-reliance. The third principle of the Stoic Warrior is understanding that self-reliance isn't selfishness. It's the foundation of genuine service to others. We live in a culture that has confused independence with isolation, self-sufficiency with selfishness. But the truth is, the person who can stand on their own 2 feet is the person who can truly lift others up. You can't give what you don't have, and you can't lead where you haven't been willing to go alone. Ralph Waldo Emerson, heavily influenced by Stoic philosophy, wrote, "Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles." The Stoic Warrior knows that relying on others for your emotional stability, your sense of worth, or your basic needs makes you vulnerable and weak. Not because others are unreliable, but because it places your power in someone else's hands. Consider the airplane safety instruction. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. If you pass out trying to help someone else first, now there are 2 people in danger instead of 1. The same principle applies to every area of life. When you develop the skills, mindset, and inner resources to handle your own challenges, you become a source of strength for others rather than a drain. Self-reliance means developing what I call emotional sovereignty. This is the ability to process your own feelings, solve your own problems, and maintain your own peace of mind, without constantly needing others to rescue you, validate you, or fix you. It doesn't mean never asking for help. It means asking for help from a position of strength rather than desperation. The self-reliant person approaches relationships differently. Instead of seeking someone to complete them, they seek someone to complement them. Instead of looking for others to fill their voids, they work on becoming whole themselves. This creates relationships based on mutual growth and genuine love rather than neediness and codependency. Practically, self-reliance means developing skills across multiple areas of life. Learn to cook nutritious meals for yourself. Understand basic financial management. Develop emotional regulation techniques. Build physical strength and endurance. Cultivate intellectual curiosity. The more competent you become in handling life's basic requirements, the more freedom you have to pursue what truly matters. But here's the deeper level, spiritual self-reliance. This means developing your own relationship with meaning, purpose, and truth. Don't outsource your spiritual life to others' interpretations. Read the ancient texts yourself. Meditate on the big questions. Develop your own understanding of what makes life worth living. The Stoic Warrior knows that self-reliance is ultimately about taking full responsibility for your life experience. No more blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck for your unhappiness. No more waiting for someone else to save you, motivate you, or give you permission to live fully. When you accept complete responsibility for your life, you also claim complete power over your life. Start building self-reliance today. Identify one area where you're overly dependent on others. Maybe it's emotional support, maybe it's practical skills, maybe it's decision-making. Take one small step toward independence in that area. The goal isn't to need no one, it's to choose connection from strength rather than desperation. Number 4. Failure is your private university. The fourth principle that defines the Stoic Warrior is this: they don't just accept failure, they court it, study it, and extract every lesson it offers. While others run from failure, make excuses for it, or pretend it doesn't affect them, the Stoic Warrior sits alone with their failures and asks the most important question: What is this trying to teach me? Thomas Edison, when asked about his 1,000 failed attempts to invent the light bulb, famously said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work." This isn't just positive thinking. It's the mindset of someone who understands that failure is not the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. But here's what most motivational speakers won't tell you. This process happens alone. When you fail publicly, people will offer sympathy, advice, or criticism. But the real work, the deep excavation of what went wrong and why, that happens in solitude. It happens in those quiet moments when you strip away the ego, the excuses, and the external noise, and honestly examine your choices, your preparation, and your execution. The Stoic Warrior creates what I call a failure audit. After every significant setback, they spend time alone analyzing 3 things. What did I control that I could have done differently? What was outside my control that I need to accept? What can I learn that will make me stronger for the next attempt? This isn't self-flagellation, it's self-education. Marcus Aurelius faced military defeats, political betrayals, and personal losses. But in his private meditations he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're curriculum. Every failure is a specialized course in exactly what you need to learn to reach the next level. Most people avoid this process because it's uncomfortable. It requires admitting mistakes, acknowledging weaknesses, and sitting with the pain of unmet expectations. But the Stoic Warrior knows that comfort is the enemy of growth. They would rather face the temporary discomfort of honest self-examination than the permanent discomfort of repeating the same mistakes. Here's the paradox. The more willing you are to fail alone, the less likely you are to fail in ways that matter. When you've processed your failures privately, extracted the lessons, and implemented the changes, you become anti-fragile, stronger because of the stress, not despite it. The failure audit also reveals patterns. Maybe you consistently underestimate the time needed for projects. Maybe you avoid difficult conversations until they become crises. Maybe you make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. These patterns only become clear when you're honest with yourself in solitude. Start your own failure practice. When something doesn't go as planned, resist the urge to immediately seek comfort or distraction. Instead, schedule time alone to sit with the experience. Write about it. What factors were within your control? What assumptions proved wrong? What would you do differently? What strength did this experience build that you didn't have before? Remember, every expert in any field is simply someone who has made more mistakes than beginners and learned from each one. Your failures aren't evidence that you're not cut out for success. They're proof that you're in the game. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Every failure is my private lesson in becoming unstoppable. Number 5. Building your inner fortress. The 5th principle of the Stoic Warrior is constructing what ancient philosophers called the inner citadel, an unassailable fortress of mental strength that remains standing regardless of external storms. This isn't about building walls to keep others out. It's about creating a space within yourself that no one can invade, corrupt, or destroy without your permission. Epictetus, one of history's greatest teachers, understood this principle better than most. He wrote, "No one can hurt you without your permission." Think about the profound truth in those words. Physical harm can be inflicted on your body, but your inner fortress, your values, your character, your peace of mind remains yours to protect or surrender. Building this inner fortress requires understanding the difference between what Stoics call impressions and judgments. An impression is what happens to you. Someone criticizes your work, you lose money in an investment, a relationship ends, you face a health challenge. These impressions are often outside your control. But your judgment about these impressions, what they mean, how they affect your worth, what you should do next, that's entirely within your fortress walls. Most people have no fortress at all. They're completely exposed to every wind of opinion, every shift in circumstances, every emotional storm that comes their way. When someone speaks harshly to them, their entire day is ruined. When plans don't work out, they spiral into despair. When others succeed, they feel diminished. They've given away the keys to their inner peace to anyone who wants to take them. The Stoic Warrior's fortress has several layers of defense. The outer wall is perspective, the ability to see current challenges in the context of your entire life, of human history, of the temporary nature of all things. When someone insults you, perspective reminds you that their words reveal their character, not yours. When you face a setback, perspective shows you that this too shall pass. The second layer is principles, a clear set of values that guide your decisions regardless of external pressure. These aren't rigid rules imposed by others, but deeply considered beliefs about what makes life worth living. When you know what you stand for, no one can make you fall for anything. The inner keep of your fortress is what I call unshakable identity. Understanding that you are not your circumstances, your roles, your possessions, or even your thoughts and feelings. You are the observer of all these things, the consciousness that experiences them. This core self cannot be touched by external events because it exists independently of them. Building this fortress is daily work. Every time you choose your response rather than reacting automatically, you strengthen the walls. Every time you act according to your values despite external pressure, you deepen the foundation. Every time you find peace in chaos, you expand the inner sanctuary. The fortress also has windows, openings that allow you to connect with others and serve the world, but on your terms rather than theirs. The Stoic Warrior isn't isolated, they're sovereign. They engage with life fully while maintaining their inner autonomy. Here's what's powerful about this inner fortress. The stronger it becomes, the more generous you can be with others. When you're not constantly defending your emotional territory, you have energy to help others build their own fortresses. When you're not threatened by others' success, you can celebrate it genuinely. When you're not dependent on others' approval, you can give them honest feedback that serves their growth. Start building your fortress today. Identify one area where you're too emotionally dependent on external circumstances. Maybe it's your mood depending on others' opinions, or your self-worth depending on achievements. Practice maintaining your inner peace in that area, regardless of what happens outside. Remember, everyone will face storms in life. The question isn't whether you'll encounter difficulties, it's whether you'll have built a fortress strong enough to weather them while maintaining your values, your peace, and your ability to serve others. Number 6. The courage to disappoint others. The sixth principle of the Stoic Warrior is perhaps the most difficult for most people to embrace. The willingness to disappoint others in order to remain true to yourself. This isn't about being cruel or inconsiderate. It's about understanding that trying to please everyone is not just impossible, it's a betrayal of your authentic self and ultimately serves no one well. Aristotle observed, "To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing." The Stoic Warrior rejects this path of invisibility. They understand that living authentically means some people will be disappointed in your choices, disagreeing with your values, or upset by your boundaries. They've made peace with this reality because they know the alternative is much worse. a life of pretense that satisfies no one, including yourself. Most people are terrified of disappointing others because they've confused being liked with being respected, being accommodating with being valuable. They say yes when they mean no. They pursue goals that aren't theirs. They maintain relationships that drain their energy, all because they can't bear the thought of someone being upset with them. But here's the paradox. People respect you more when you have clear boundaries than when you have none at all. The Stoic Warrior understands that disappointment is often a sign that you're making the right choice. When you choose your values over others' expectations, some people will be disappointed. When you pursue your authentic path rather than the one others want for you, disappointment is inevitable. When you set healthy boundaries instead of being endlessly available, people who are taking advantage of your compliance will be disappointed. This principle requires what I call strategic disappointment, the conscious choice to let some people down in order to show up authentically for the people and purposes that truly matter. You can't give your best to everyone, so you must choose where to invest your energy, time, and emotional resources. Consider the parent who pushes their child toward a career the child doesn't want. The child faces a choice: disappoint the parent by following their own path, or disappoint themselves by living someone else's dream. The Stoic Warrior chooses to disappoint the parent because they understand that living inauthentically disappoints everyone in the long run, including the parent who wanted happiness for their child. The courage to disappoint others also applies to smaller daily interactions. It's saying no to social invitations when you need solitude. It's refusing to participate in gossip even when it might make you popular. It's maintaining your standards even when others think you're being too picky or too strict. Each act of authentic choice builds your courage muscle. But this principle comes with responsibility. The Stoic Warrior doesn't disappoint others carelessly or cruelly. They communicate their boundaries clearly and kindly. They acknowledge others' feelings while maintaining their position. They distinguish between disappointing someone's expectations and disrespecting them as a person. There's also wisdom in choosing your disappointments strategically. You can't fight every battle or oppose every expectation. The Stoic Warrior picks the hills worth dying on, the situations where compromising their values would damage their integrity or derail their purpose. For everything else, they find ways to be respectful while remaining true to themselves. The most profound truth about this principle is that people who truly love you want you to be authentic, even if your authenticity sometimes disappoints them. They'd rather know the real you and occasionally disagree with your choices than love a false version of you that you've created to please them. Start practicing this courage in small ways. The next time someone asks you to do something that doesn't align with your values or priorities, practice saying no, kindly but firmly. Notice how the world doesn't end when you disappoint someone. In fact, you might find that your relationships become more honest and meaningful when people know where you actually stand. The Stoic Warrior knows that a life spent trying to avoid all disappointment is a life that disappoints the most important person of all, yourself. Number 7. Victory through self-mastery. The seventh and final principle of the Stoic Warrior is understanding that the only victory that truly matters is the victory over yourself. While the world obsesses over defeating others, accumulating more, or achieving external recognition, the Stoic Warrior knows that the ultimate conquest is mastering your own mind, emotions, and impulses. This is the victory that no one can take from you because it exists entirely within your control. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, captured this truth perfectly. He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. The Stoic Warrior embodies this mightiness not through force or aggression, but through the quiet power of self-discipline emotional regulation, and conscious choice. Self-mastery isn't about suppressing your humanity or becoming emotionally robotic. It's about becoming the conscious director of your inner experience rather than its helpless victim. It's the difference between being driven by your emotions and using your emotions as information. It's the difference between being controlled by your thoughts and learning to observe them with detachment. Every day presents countless opportunities for this inner victory. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you react with rage, or do you choose your response? When you face criticism, do you immediately defend or attack, or do you pause and consider what might be useful in the feedback? When you're tempted to procrastinate on important work, do you automatically give in, or do you act in alignment with your long-term interests? These moments might seem small, but they're where self-mastery is built. Each time you choose your response rather than reacting automatically, you strengthen what the Stoics called the ruling faculty, your capacity for conscious choice. Each victory over impulse, each moment of chosen patience, each decision to act from wisdom rather than emotion builds the ultimate form of personal power. The Stoic Warrior understands that external victories are often hollow if they come at the cost of inner defeat. The person who achieves great success while being controlled by anger, fear, or ego hasn't truly won anything. They've simply rearranged external circumstances while remaining enslaved internally. But the person who maintains their peace, acts with integrity, and chooses their responses consciously has achieved something no external force can diminish. Self-mastery also means mastering your relationship with desire itself. This doesn't mean eliminating all wants or becoming passionless. It means distinguishing between preferences and attachments, between healthy ambition and desperate need. The Stoic Warrior can want things without being controlled by that wanting. They can work toward goals without being devastated if those goals aren't achieved. This principle culminates everything we've discussed. The sacred solitude gives you space to know yourself. Independence from others' opinions frees you to act authentically. Self-reliance provides the foundation for conscious choice. Learning from failure builds wisdom. Daily practice strengthens your inner fortress. Internal validation removes external dependencies. Detachment creates emotional freedom. Your inner fortress protects your autonomy. The courage to disappoint others maintains your integrity. All of these principles serve the ultimate goal, becoming the master of your own experience. When you achieve this mastery, you walk alone not because you're antisocial, but because you're self-sufficient. You rise alone not because you're selfish, but because you're strong enough to lift others. You win alone not because you don't care about others, but because your victory is internal and therefore unassailable. Start your journey to self-mastery today. Notice one pattern of automatic reaction in your life and practice choosing your response instead. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the master of my own mind, emotions, and destiny. The path of the Stoic Warrior isn't easy, but it's the only path that leads to genuine freedom. In a world that teaches dependence, you've learned independence. In a culture that demands conformity, you've chosen authenticity. Where others seek external validation, you've built internal strength. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. You now have the 7 principles that will help you think like a warrior, act like a philosopher, and live like someone who understands that true power comes from within. Remember, walking alone doesn't mean being lonely, it means being free. Rising alone doesn't mean being selfish, it means being strong enough to serve others. Winning alone doesn't mean not caring about others, it means that your victory is so deeply rooted in character that no external force can take it away. The world needs more people who have done the inner work, who can stand in their truth without needing others' permission, who can love without attachment and serve without expectation. The world needs more Stoic warriors. If this message resonated with you, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your favorite principle in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more ancient wisdom that transforms modern lives. Your journey to inner mastery starts now. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I walk the path of the Stoic warrior, alone, strong, and free.